Welcome in everybody to episode 16 of my Pro Unreal Engine tutorial series here on YouTube. Today we're going to finish up our work with the crouch animations. Mainly we're going to be adding sync markers and basically rotating all the animations so that they face forward. So we don't really need to do this stuff, but it's going to make the blend spaces look much better, which you'll see coming up here pretty soon. Okay, so to start, we're going to go into our animations, and we're going to open up the first one we're going to work on. So as you can see here, those are all the animations we have for this skeleton. And we're quickly going to pause here so I can explain what a sync marker is. So basically, when all the animations are blending together, we have to identify key points. So right here, for example, you can see that right foot touches the ground, and then the left foot touches the ground, and then the right foot, left foot, etc. And to help our blend space basically sync these animations correctly, we have to basically tell them when that's happening. So we right click, add sync marker, and we already have this right plant made for us. So then basically we just want to seek until that left foot plants, and then put in left plant. And then do the exact same thing. So then we have right plant again. And we have it again. And by the way, the left and right is from the perspective of the character. So remember, what we're seeing is the opposite of what the character is seeing, because we're facing them. And then we literally just click on to the next one, and just do the exact same thing. This might seem a little bit tedious, but it definitely does a lot. Because see how the plants are different for every single animation? So this is actually going to make things look really sloppy when we implement our blend space. And we're just going to keep doing this over and over again. Just seek through, now right foot. But basically it just really is going to make this look so much better. And we do have a lot of them to do. And we will also do this for the upper body, but that will obviously not be the right plant and left plant because the feet aren't moving in that. But you'll see when we get to that. And this also helps us out with footsteps, which are actually coming up at some point in the next couple of lectures. So that's definitely exciting. But basically, how footsteps work is when these little notifies get triggered, then a function gets called, and that's where we will be playing the footstep. But as you can see in all these animations, the character definitely isn't facing straight. And I figured it would be better to do all the notifies first, and then move over to the focusing the character's gaze straight. Just better to do things one at a time, the old assembly line mentality. And hopefully we won't have to do this again, so that's a positive. I'm trying just to knock out all these little animation tasks right now. Alright, so for idle, we obviously don't need any notifies because it's not actually moving its feet. So we can continue on. Alright, so we have our idle rifle iron sights again. We're not moving the feet, so we're good. And now we'll get the notifies in for the backwards one. And these sync markers are so good because sometimes animation packs might be made a little sloppily. Like this one, thankfully, it seems like every single one is right, left. But sometimes that isn't the case. And the only way to salvage it is with these sync markers. So thankfully, this pack, because it's the official Unreal pack, although it doesn't have the forward left, forward right, and kind of those halfway animations, the ones that it does have are at least made correctly, which definitely makes our job a lot easier. And speaking of that, I know this is kind of miserable, but at least this will give you guys more of an appreciation for what artists do in video games in general. It's really hard work and it can be very tedious sometimes. And yeah, I'm happy I am not an artist personally, because this is pretty much the most I can take of this. But yeah, we just have to get through this and then we can move back to the programming stuff. Because the next art thing we're going to be doing is going to be making the actual map. So that'll be fun at least, because then we get to kind of design our map and do all that stuff. Because as I keep saying, we don't have a lot of work left to do on the character. It seems like we have a lot left to do, but we really don't. And then when we start our new project, whenever we finish this one, we won't have to do all this stuff again. We can just kind of import the plugins and migrate them to the new project. So that's kind of the benefit of setting everything up like plugins, like I've been saying the entire time, because you guys are seeing firsthand how much work there is to set up just something basic like this character we have so far. Especially when you're making a game by yourself, the key is to work smarter, not harder. Alright, so we're at the upper body animations. So we need to open up our calculations document to remind us of how many frames each step happens at. So now we're going to make some new sync markers. So just double checking here. And I'm getting a little confused because of the timeline, that it isn't exactly halfway. But everything's fine. You'll just see me close this down and check to make sure. So basically, we want to add a new sync marker. And you see, I'm definitely confused. So we'll close everything down and I'll open up Blender and make sure that it actually exported correctly, which it did. So we'll go back to what we did last time. And see, I have the same thing. It's going from 1 to 90, and that second keyframe is at 46. So we're just fine. And honestly, with these sync markers, it doesn't matter if it's exactly at the right frame, as long as it's close. The thing we're trying to avoid is it just being completely wrong. Like in the instance where one animation is at left foot, and then we move to, say, walk right from walk left, and it goes from left foot to right foot instantly, that's what looks really sloppy as we make our no movement, because that's all these animations are, right? We have a no movement and a max movement, and it's just a cycle with that. So that's what we're going to title all these. So we have our sync marker at 0 for no movement, and then we'll make a new one for max movement at that halfway point. And that's all we're going to be doing for all these. Yeah, it's definitely a lot easier to add the sync markers for the ones that you've made because you know how they work. But if you think making the upper body animations takes a long time, the lower body is absolutely miserable. I have definitely tried to make my own, and the result definitely looks worse than the professionally made packs, and it takes me forever to do it because I don't really know what I'm doing. So yeah, it's some things it's just better to use the packs that are made by professionals. A lot of them end up being free, so that's good. Alright, check out. And by the way, when it comes to the packs, I'm never going to use a paid asset pack in this video. Well, this video series, that is. As we go to 201 in our idle crouch. But yeah, I'm gonna make everything using the free assets. And then when I go to actually post the game on Steam, I'll switch in my actual assets that I have bought. Because using these free assets is great for the tutorial series. But when you actually go to release the game, people expect a certain level of artistic fidelity. And I basically don't want to have the mannequin kind of being the default character. It just isn't great. So you will notice right at the end of the series, I'm going to swap out our kind of free asset packs for a lot of paid ones. And that'll be why. But don't worry about it for now. For this series, I will never ask you guys to spend a dime on asset packs. We'll work with the permanently free collection just to make things easy. And we only have one more. So we'll add our last no movement. And then we will add our max movement. And now we're going to do the rotation part. So we want to collapse that down so we have a better view of the character. And then we want to switch from perspective to right. And then we use the mouse scroll wheel to zoom. Because our goal here is we want the face to be exactly forward. So that when we're looking at the character, it'll all look good. So to do this, we click on spine 1 and press E. And then we have to click that button I just clicked to stop snapping. And then we kind of just rotate the red and the blue, which correlate to X and Z rotation, respectively. And the main thing that we're trying to do here is to just make it look natural. Just like that. And you want to spread the rotation in between the 3 spine bones as best you can. And then we can use the neck bone to rotate the head for fine adjustments like this. And because this is the first one, feel free to repeat this section as we add a keyframe to the end. So that's the important part. You have to add a keyframe right at frame 0 and it will basically apply an offset to the animation so that it's facing forward. And definitely make sure you don't rotate each spine or the neck too much, or else it'll look really weird. So we'll do the same thing again for the next one. So see how I'm kind of rotating it to make the head face forward, but not rotating each individual one too much. So kind of aim for getting it a third of the way with each spine bone. And then at the end, we make small adjustments on that neck bone. So just like that. And don't be nervous if it's taking you longer to do this than me, because I've done this many a time. And if you lose the keyframe, you just have to click back on one of the spines, and it'll work. But yeah, as I was saying, just make sure you're taking your time with this, because if we do it correctly the first time, then we won't have to do it again. But if you play test and you think to yourself, these animations don't look that good, then you'll get into the cycle of endlessly tweaking it over and over again. And that's kind of what we want to avoid. Right? So we keep twisting, again, a third for each bone. And it doesn't have to be exact, but if you rotate one of the bones a lot, then it'll look really bad. And you see I'm using the green or the Y. I wouldn't use that for anything other than the neck. Just use blue and red for the spines, and you can use all three for the neck. And just remember to press the key button before you switch to the next animation, or you'll lose all your work. And once you've already added a key, you just have to re-add a key, and that'll work just fine. So don't worry about that. Alright, so now we're getting into the walk right. And this one, see, it's a little bit worse looking. So we have some more work to do. And yeah, you see me using the Y there. I accidentally pressed it, and I brought it back to 0. Alright, so we'll keep going. And see, this is a pretty easy process to kind of make these animations work for us. Because honestly, they weren't made to be used with a first person project. Most games in Unreal are third person games. So most of the asset packs, quite honestly, aren't optimized for our use case. But you can make them work using little workarounds like this if you know what you're doing. It took me quite some time to figure out this method, and I'm happy to be able to share it with you guys to keep you from going through the same issues. Because I don't know, let me know in the comments, but I definitely prefer first person games. Alright, we'll keep rotating. Now we're on our idle. And we'll keep rotating. Spine 3. And we're about halfway, because we're done with all the crouch ones. And one of these, I forget to add a keyframe. I'm not sure which one it is. It might be this one. But you'll see what I meant about having to restart. Nope, we had a keyframe for that one, so that's good. And see, that's what it looks like when you play through. It just adds a little offset. And you can zoom out with the mouse button and hold the right mouse button to kind of move around. And some of them, like this one, you want to start right with the neck because see, the body is pretty much facing forward by default. So we'll keep rotating it. And we are going to rotate the spine a little bit. But yeah, this is one of those things you could sit here forever making it look perfect, or you could just do a good job the first time, but not overly good, if that makes sense. Because if you spend enough time in here doing this, you'll drive yourself insane. So just basically try to aim for 80% of the perfect animation offset, and that'll be great for your purposes. The goal here is to make the animations look not obviously bad. Like, obviously, if somebody's very heavily scrutinizing our animations, then they're not going to look absolutely perfect because we don't have a professional animator doing all this. We just kind of want that most players who play the game and don't know a lot about how animation works, we just want them to look at the game and be like, okay, this looks fine. And that's the goal. Alright, only a few more. Okay, so we rotate spine 1, spine 2, and yeah, props for you guys for getting through this, because I know when I first started off, little animation tasks like this were what would cause me to kind of quit. And if you're able to have the attention span and the drive to make it through this part, then you're going to be successful. So just congratulations if you're making it to this point. Because I think, for my money, this is the absolute worst part of game development, doing this kind of tedious animation work. But then again, it has to be done, and you're the only one working on this project, so I could certainly just upload the finished animations for you guys, but I want you guys to learn an appreciation for this stuff. And then at the end, you can say, I made this game. And it's a great feeling to have that point of pride. So we'll continue doing it this way. And at this point, we only have a couple left. So we'll rotate the neck. And I know it's kind of hard to see the head sometimes behind the arms, but just do your best. Again, we're not even going to be able to tell if it's moderately bad, but we just have to make sure it's not really bad. Yeah, so see, this one we forgot to press keyframe. So I'm gonna go back and do the walk forward again because it looks like I forgot to press the keyframe button. I knew I screwed up one of them, so hopefully you guys didn't make the same mistake. But I'll go through and fix this real quick. And then you'll see me go through all of them and make sure they're all good. And that's probably a step you should all take. And then if you did screw up and forget to put in a keyframe for one of them, you can just go back and repeat your work. Kind of annoying for sure, but not the end of the world. Okay, so this time we add the key, and I'll go through the rest of them and see how they're all facing forward. So that's how we can tell that we did actually save the keyframe. So we're looking good. Alright, and then we're all done except for this last one, the walk right. So we'll knock that out real quick. Starting as always with spine 1. Then we'll move on to 2. And last but not least, spine 3. Well, not actually last, we have the neck bone. Okay. And this is where we're falling into the perfectionist category a little bit. Like, it's probably fine right here. Okay, great. Alright, so we're all set with this rotating the animations. So congratulations on making it through that. And now we can actually make the blend spaces. So we can just duplicate the ones we already made. And we'll make the lower crouch and the upper crouch as well. And you'll notice I start putting in the wrong animations here because I must have just been exhausted at this point. But I put all the lower body animations in. So with what I'm doing here, just follow along with the lower crouch and it will all match. So yeah, don't make these changes to the upper crouch. Use the lower crouch for what I'm doing here. It had just been a long day. And you'll see, it's not a big deal, it's easy to fix, but I want you guys to avoid it if needed. So we'll just drag all of them in, just like we did last time with the walking ones. And then we'll go back and make sure they actually swapped out, because sometimes they don't. And they all swapped. And we'll see when I realize my mistake. I think it's right about now. But at this point, it's better to just power through and rename them than to do the work again. Okay. Okay, so that all is swapped out except for the forward one, and that is where I realized the mistake. Yeah, so see right here, you can see the wheels are turning. And again, just control and then drag with the mouse to move that little preview indicator. Yeah, so this one's all set. We're just going to have to rename it and move it into the other folder. Alright, so we're looking pretty good. And don't worry if that in between doesn't look good, because that will never actually be triggered during gameplay. That's why I make them all 25 speed, because that value is like never going to get hit. Alright, so we go to lower body and we can name this crouch 2 for now. Because source control is going to freak out if we try to put something in the same folder with the same name as we change that to lower and then drag it into lower body. You won't have to do this because you won't have made that same mistake. But it's good to show the process of fixing your mistakes. Yeah, so we'll call this one upper now. We'll drag it into the upper folder. And then you guys can now follow along as I make sure the lower body one is still good. And then you guys can follow me over to the upper body one. And we can edit this. And this, we're just putting in the animations we made. So they're just the upper body. So we have our idle crouch. And we have to swap that in for all the ones at the bottom. And try to get exactly on the little dot, or else it won't actually change. And we'll keep it going. Only a few more. And I'll go through and make sure they all actually got swapped. Okay, so we're looking pretty good. Nice. And then we'll swap the actual movement animations. And again, for the upper body, the forward and the backward are going to be exactly the same. So excellent. Alright, so at that point, we're pretty much good. And no need to test because we didn't hook anything up. So we'll package the project just to make sure we didn't screw up the packaging. And mine worked. Yours should have too. And we'll quickly test. And it should look the same as last time because we didn't make any actual changes to the character. So just make sure it actually packages, and then we're good to call it a day. So first we'll go over to our board and move everything into review. Then we'll move into Perforce and add everything. So yeah, it's just a whole bunch of U assets. Nothing that we don't want to add. I guess it won't be adding for most of these, it's modifying. So we'll move that into our change set. And everything here looks good. So we'll send it on its way. Alright, perfect. And now we can move our task into done after adding a little comment. Our little all set, and then the change list that we like to put in here. Alright, and then we're all done. So, congratulations, guys, on making it through these past couple of episodes. I know it wasn't the most fun work, and I'm happy for you guys that you made it through. So, in the 17th episode, next time, we're going to be actually hooking up these animations and adding input for crouch. So, we'll be able to see these animations in action, which will be very exciting. And we'll also go over some networking stuff because we're going to be changing the state from walking to crouching. And I'll talk about how the character movement component helps us with that. But with all that being said, thanks for watching. And I hope you guys are really enjoying these videos and they're teaching you a lot about making games in Unreal. And if you appreciate what I'm doing, definitely leave this video a like and leave me a comment letting me know any feedback that you have. And absolutely subscribe to the channel so you can keep up with these videos as they come out. As I've mentioned in the past, I'm going to be trying to stick to a 3 episode a week release schedule, and it'll be Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. Until further notice, I'm going to try to get up to 4 a week once the summer's over, but we'll see. And yeah, with all that being said, thank you so much again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Later.